Hello ladies, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. Today I really wanted to share a book review. As I said in my last video, I am really excited about sharing all the different books that I'm loving and that I would love for you to experience as well. And I really wanted to start it off on a colorful note by doing a book review of Love in Color by Bolu Babalola. Yeah. So without further ado, let's get into the video. First and foremost, I think one cannot talk about this book without talking about the cover, and I'll just show it to you on my phone. It's a beautiful, vibrant mix of colors, and I try to match it with my outfit. So here I am in my, let me just show you, in my colorful shorts because I really wanted to match the vibe of the book. I absolutely love this cover. It's a beautiful, vibrant mix, like I said, and it's very bold, very bright, and it's definitely an eye catcher. So if you're in a store, it's going to pull you in. I'm not sure what color the spine is, but I would love to have this book in hardcover, first of all, just because of the way it looks. It is absolutely stunning and simple, but it explains everything about the book. It gives a good depiction of what the book is about. So if you don't know already, Love in Color is a collection of mythical tales from around the world, and they are retold from Bolu's perspective. So I don't know why I didn't read much about it. I don't like to read too much about a book before I buy it because I don't like spoilers. So I didn't really know actually that it was a collection of different short stories until I think a couple of days before I bought it, and that was actually something that made me a little bit hesitant because I had the impression that it was a full novel, but it actually is a collection, I believe, of 13 stories. So the concept of it is just that it's 13 short stories. Maybe there's more, I might be wrong, but a collection of short stories, and it's mythical tales, so stories that already exist, but then they are retold from Bolu's perspective and from the perspective of it being black love. So first of all, that was something that I was definitely here for, because a lot of the stories, if you think of fairy tales and I mean, even just looking at, let's start off with fairy tales. If you look at fairy tales, most of them, if not all, are very European, white-centered stories, and we have, say, the Princess and the Frog, and that's like the go-to, but because there's not many fairy tales told from a black perspective or a black love story. So definitely here for the idea of retelling these stories from an African perspective. And I loved also that some of the stories were actually mythical African stories, so stories that are from Africa originally, and she's retold them just to make it her own, make them sort of suit her style of writing. And yeah, that was really exciting. And another thing, she also made them from a more adult perspective, so it's not fairy tales rewritten for black kids. This is for black women, black well, I suppose if you're any color you can read the stories, but they are obviously adult stories, so it's nice to read them from an adult perspective and not from a animation perspective, so to say. So coming to the content, but first I forgot to share, I'm drinking a very colorful tea today. This is the ruby orange tea from 5 Roses. I really love this tea. It's caffeine free, and it is also it's self-sweetened. I don't know what they use to sweeten it, but it is you don't need to add any sweetener to it, so it's absolutely delicious. So I thought this was the perfect drink to pair with Love in Color. So moving on to the content of the stories. So first of all, the stories are absolutely beautifully written. I think they're very vivid. She's very vivid in her storytelling. She's able to captivate the reader, and you can absolutely imagine everything that she's talking about because it's just so well written. So first of all, that's something that I loved about the stories. They are all very different. So one thing about the stories is that some of them are set in an imaginary land. Some are so more mythical, more magical, more story, fairy tale type of telling. So there was that aspect, but some of the stories are modern, so they've been modernized and they're told from a nowadays perspective. One thing the book doesn't do though is it doesn't tell you at the start of the story where it's set and how long ago or what year it is. So it takes a couple of pages for you to try and set the scene of where the stories are. But because she writes so well, she's able to explain that. But it's not something that you know from the offset. So it's quite hard for you, like you have to actually transport your mind to several different locations because the stories are from all over the world and set in different times as well. So I really, personally, I wish that the stories had, if they were divided into sections, so say the first section is one that's like modern tales or modernized mythical tales, and then another one is like imaginary settings and so on, just so you know what sort of genre, what sort of setting it's in. They are all love stories, obviously, as the title depicts, and although like some of them are pretty predictable, like where the story is going to go, but yeah, some of them are they do have a twist to them or an unexpected ending. So I really like that about them. And yeah, it's just a nice celebration of love, but then also apart from the love angle of the stories, a lot of the stories, well, all of the stories are told from the woman's perspective, which is absolutely amazing. Totally here for that. And not only women, they're not all black women in the stories, but they're definitely all women of color, and so it's just a completely different depiction of the narrative of women of color as the world sees us, but it's basically, women of color being shown as these strong characters, owning their stories, being in control of their lives, being powerful in the different respects. And so, like there's musicians and there's women in offices and there's women who are leading armies. So it's totally diverse, but it's all centered on strong, powerful women of color, and I absolutely love that they're just very empowering. I can put it that way in a very simplified sense. Yeah, I think I would say, because you're expecting to know the stories, some of the stories are not as well known, but she's telling some stories, like some of them are Shakespearean stories, some of them are African folk tales, some are like there's one that has like sort of a Robin Hood theme to it. So you're sort of having that mindset of trying to, like the whole time you're trying to think, what story is this? And so it's a bit, and like one was based on Greek mythology, and so it's quite nice that she's taken them from all sorts of different sources. But I think because some of them are not as well known as the others, you do spend, well, I personally spend some time really trying to think and trying to put my finger on what the story was, and then only getting to the end where she's given some references for some of the stories and being like, there's no way that I knew that story, so I would love to go back and just enjoy the story for what it is. But it's also really nice that they are short stories. I think one thing that I have struggled with, I've personally written a number of short stories, but just trying to have the perfect storyline, sum it up in a few pages than a full novel-length story, and having a really nice twist to it and making it feel like it has a successful ending. I think that's quite, honestly, I found that that's been quite a challenge for me, in trying to write short stories for like various competitions and things like that. So I really have to applaud Bolu on just her ability to weave a story, tell it in a simple way, but then leave you feeling at the end of it that the story was fulfilled in itself. And it's also nice, to have short stories, because if you actually don't like one of the stories, so obviously you're going to find some that are more to your taste, and some that are a bit more like, I didn't really enjoy that one. But the good thing is that they're short, and so you can get over that story and move on to the next one, which is probably going to be something that you might enjoy more. And also, if you're busy, if you're, working women, or men, if you're busy with work and life and so on, how it is, it's so hard, like if you start reading a book and you don't have time to stick with it, especially a story that's hard to read, and then you come back and you don't remember what happened in the previous pages. At least you have, because they're short stories, you can easily read a short story in a couple of days or in a day, and you can always start the next one at your own convenience. So that's also really practical. So it's a really nice package, really great value for money, because you're getting a lot of stories just for one. And I can't wait to read a full novel by her. I'm sure she's going to come out with, because she writes brilliantly, honestly, and I know she's going to be coming out with a novel. I'm not sure when. I didn't do any research. I don't know if she's made any statements about when she's going to release the story, a full novel rather. But I'm really here for it, and I'm very excited, and I would definitely be getting my hands on that, just to, like, I loved reading Love in Color, and so I'm definitely looking forward to a full publication by her. So yeah, really, really happy with this story. I will definitely at some point in life be getting myself a hard copy. Like I said, it's just beautiful to display. It's the kind of book that is also a really nice gift that you can get for a girlfriend. I will say though, there is one thing that I wasn't too happy about, which is the amount of swear words in the story. I think one thing that I've always stuck to, as being an avid reader, and I think especially in more modern times, I get the sense that authors feel that they have to, like, if they themselves use swear words, or if they know that it's a common thing that people just do swear a lot, that they feel like they have to include it in their books. But I feel like, especially if you're an author, there are just, as I like to say, there's so many words in the English language and other languages that you can use to express creatively and a character's the character's feelings, or if they're angry, you can use, there's so many words that you can use without having to swear, because that's just something that is off-putting for me personally. That is just something that I find off-putting in books, especially if I'm trying to, like, I want to buy a book for someone. It's just not something that I endorse, and so that's one thing that I would say was a bit of a letdown. And I found that as the stories went along, it became a more frequent occurrence that characters were swearing, and I was just like, why couldn't they just say what they want to say without swearing? And it kept on going. But then the last story was actually a winner for me. I thought that it redeemed the anthology, because it was actually, I think it's not too much of a spoiler. I think you can find this everywhere, but it's basically her parents' love story, I believe, and it's just, it was written so beautifully, and I think because it was an original story, it was very authentic. based on a true story, obviously, but I loved that, and it just tied everything together perfectly, and it, gave you the impression of why Bolu felt that she wanted to talk about and write about love stories, because love is such a beautiful thing and it ought to be celebrated. Yeah, I think that's all I can say for today. I hope you enjoyed this book review, and yes, I would definitely recommend you reading Love in Color. It's one that yeah, it's you would thank me for it, is what I can say. So yeah, hope you are able to purchase it, and I hope you enjoyed this book review, and I hope to see you soon. Bye now.